One of the things that I often hear people say, sometimes these days, people say things like, well, it's not how long you pray, it is how well you pray. I don't know what that means. I absolutely don't know what that means. Like, it's not how well you pray, it's not how long you pray, it's how well. It's not the quantity that matters, it is the quality that matters. And I'm like, where is that coming from? It's one of the greatest disservice that the enemy is doing to our generation, where people feel that the length of time for which you pray is not important. It is the heart that you put into it. And I'm like, have these guys ever been in love before? Can you imagine? Can you imagine telling your boyfriend or girlfriend as you're planning to get married, or your spouse, to say, you know what, I'm not just that kind of quantity person, I'm a very quality kind of guy. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to be having a power conversation 2 minutes every day. Like we're going to put a lot of quality into it. Like, it's not how long we talk. You see, nobody says that who is in love. They would spend 4 hours, 5 hours talking over the phone, and at the end of the time, you don't even know the substance of what you were talking about. Everything they said in 4 or 5 hours. Back in the day, I remember when I was serving those days, it was the days when they used to do these free night calls, and I would see young couples in the night keeping vigil with their phones, with the person on the other end, because they are in love. So towards evening, they would load your phone with 100 naira, because that's what you needed to be able to make that free call. That begins from 12 midnight, and I think it ends around 4 a.m. or something like that, or 5, right? Some people will exhaust that full free period, and then it's like, the time is almost here, the time is almost here. The time will come and pass. The 100 naira they loaded last night will also be exhausted, and that's what ended the call eventually. You cannot be in love with God and come along and say, hey, it's not how long you spend, it's how well. Listen to me. As far as the spirit is concerned, as a rule, you cannot have quality in prayer without quantity. It's not possible. You see, Jesus set the minimum standard for our prayer obligations. He said, do not watch and pray with me for just 1 hour. So you can go argue with Jesus. Jesus felt that 1 hour was just one. Like, guys, what's wrong with you? You couldn't just watch and pray with me for just 1 hour? So if you're looking for your daily dose of prayer, I'm not trying to legislate. I'm just building on the experience and the example of Jesus. I put it at about 1 hour. It should be your objective. All right? You may not be there, but it should be your objective. That for me to start thinking that I'm doing good spiritually, I need to walk consistently, gradually towards having a normal prayer life daily, that at least cumulatively I would be able to say I give God cumulatively 1 hour of decided prayer time every day. And listen to me, so you don't rush yourself. Don't rush yourself. When you are starting out on the prayer journey, the most important thing at the beginning is the routine, much more than the duration. You want to come into a routine of prayer that is consistent. So even if that means 15 minutes of prayer every day, consistency will be more important to you on the long run than a haphazard 2 hours today, because you went for a meeting in the church, you came back, you did 2 hours, and then you went into coma again for another 8 days. Then you another 1 hour, and then it was like a major achievement, like a milestone. So you needed like 4 days again to recover from that 1 hour before you try another 1 hour. It would be most beneficial when you are beginning out on your journey in prayer to prioritize what? To prioritize what? Did I say? Routine over duration. So I'm not contradicting myself. I remember I just told you that you cannot have quality without quantity. But I'm talking about the discipline of prayer, because prayer is something that is a discipline that you need to give yourself to. The apostle said that we will give ourselves continually to prayers and to the ministry of the word. Prayer is not something that happens to you. It is something you make happen. And hear me, when you are beginning on that journey, you need to be intentional about it. If you want to be intentional, therefore, you start with building a routine. You want your muscle muscle, your spiritual muscle, to be walked into a prayer posture that says that at this time now, something is missing because you have formed a discipline, a habit. It's like the way that addictions happen. Nobody sleeps, wakes up, and then suddenly he realizes that he's addicted to masturbation. Nobody, that's not how it works. When somebody is getting into the regions of addiction, they have started from experimenting, and then it became a practice, and then it became a habit, and then it becomes an addiction. You don't do something one day and get addicted to it the next day. It is the consistency of your engagement that makes you come into the realm where your soul becomes so inclined towards doing it that it has become suddenly like second nature. In the same way with prayer. Nobody is born with prayer. All of us, we came to meet it here, and it was here that we are learning it. Are you with me? Are you with me? Okay, see, listen to me. Without a prayer life, your spiritual life is grounded. Forget the noise and the hype. If you are not praying, you are not going anywhere. If you are not praying, you are not going anywhere. Even the things that God will give to you, all the impartations you will receive in this conference, God will give them to you as a seed. You will need to take it home and go and grow it. And the place you grow it is in the place of prayer. Many of you do not know the degree of your indebtedness to grace in the spirit. All the things that God has invested in your life that you have ignored, that you have denied it opportunity for expression because you are not fanning it to flame. Once again, I want to say to you this morning, if you don't have a prayer life, you are grounded in the spirit. There is no substitute for it. Nothing else can take the place of prayer. Nothing. So if you only began with, I want to do 15 minutes every day. When you're trying to form a habit, I used to tell people, whatever you need to do to pray, do it. Do it. So sometimes, even till now, because I'm going to say certain things to you that some of you might find a little bit, maybe even legalistic. But if you have a walk with God, the Bible says, as many as are led by the Spirit of the Lord, they are the sons of God, isn't it? All right. So there are times that God will lead you, and God will say to you, can you give me 30 minutes? Can you give me 1 hour? Can you give me 90 minutes? Have you ever heard that kind of instruction before? Have you ever heard that kind of instruction? I'm talking to people. It's money. Your money brain should do better than this. Has God ever talked to you like that before? In fact, I remember when one prayer meeting one day, and my guys and I, and then God was bringing so much, and I was the one leading the prayers. So I said, sir, where is my own? And he said, for this project, 90 minutes every day for 9 days, then we can talk. I said, okay, you see, it's not out for you. When God tells you 90 minutes every day for 9 days, it is 90 minutes every day for 9 days. If God is the one that said it to you, that is an instruction from a father. It's not legalism. What you don't do is to go around telling people, if you want to get something from God, you need to do 90 minutes every day for 9 days. When you do that now, you are beginning to doctrinize a personal encounter, and that would be wrong. Are you with me? But in the crucible of your own personal relationship with Jesus, Jesus should be able to say that kind of thing to you, isn't it? Yes. So when you get to those kinds of clearly defined instructions, what I will do is, when I come to that kind of prayer, I don't want to imagine that my mind will tell me when it is 90 minutes. When I'm starting the prayer, I will set my alarm to 90 minutes plus 5 minutes on top of it, right? And then I'll throw the phone someplace, and then I begin to pray. Because the beautiful thing with these alarm clocks is that they don't have emotions, and they don't used to change their mind. They are not considerate. They don't have pity. If it's called a set time, right? That's why even in your dealings with God, sometimes I say, why is God? Your tears cannot twist God to violate the protocol of timing. When it is not time, it is not time. So when you set that alarm and you start praying, because sometimes when it comes to prayer, time starts to drag. So after 40 minutes, something will tell you in your mind like, man, I don't do that kind of 1 hour, 20 minutes now. When you check your time, you realize that 40 minutes is still 40 minutes. Even though you are sweating, the alarm clock is not saying, man, this lady don't try you. Let's. No, the alarm will not wail until the set time has arrived. That's so, because sometimes you pray for 10 minutes and then in your mind, You felt that, man, I'm sure I did like 40 minutes. That's it. An alarm will clear your doubt. So when I have those kinds of clear instructions, all right, when I have those kinds of clear instructions, I will set my alarm and put a margin on top of it, and then I will start praying. So I now know that I don't need to worry how long have I prayed for. Until it is that time, I will not know. When it is that time, I will know. And you see, many times what happens is, if you actually, and I hope we can get into that this morning, because prayer is a landscape. There's a journey in prayer. If you actually lock in, if you are able to lock in and secure the kind of access that God promises us in the place of prayer, many times you realize that when that alarm wails, it now becomes a nuisance, because you have gone beyond the veil, and you have not been able to lock into that holy, hallowed, sweet creed in the place of prayer, where it is my Lord and I, that place where it is God without disguise. There's a point where you are the one doing the prayer, and there's a point when it's now like the prayer is doing you. You are saying, you will pray and pray and pray and pray and pray until it's like prayer starts praying you. Listen to me. If there is a place where the eye of the eagle has not seen, there's a place where the lion whelp has not trodden, there is a place where even angels shudder to come. It is the Holy of Holies, that place that has no need of lamps and of lights that are external to God, the place that is lit by the Shekinah himself. In the outlay of the tabernacle and the temple, you'd realize that the outer court was lit by sunlight. The holy place was lit by the menorah, the lampstand that had 7 lamps, and the Holy of Holies had no provision for light. Why? Because God himself is the brightness of that arena. And as you begin from the outer place and you break into the holy place and you break into the Holy of Holies, you enter into such a sweet spot in the spirit that time loses its very essence. Velemo fesagia taiko milakami aveski vefaria katai mile komoso saiki. One of the reasons for the lack of God on our street is because of the lack of prayer in our closets. You know how Jesus puts it? Jesus says men ought always to pray. The word ought is the word for compulsory. That's the word for necessity. It actually means that one of the objectives, like the human being was created, was designed with prayer in view. That when God was framing you, he framed you as an object, as a vessel, as a thing, a being of prayer. When you are saying, what is the intent of the manufacturer of the microphone I am holding, you are saying, what is the purpose? Because ordinarily this microphone ought to transmit sound to the receiver, and then these speakers ought to amplify the voice, all things being equal. That means that these functions were built into the fabric of these individual items. The Bible says that men ought always to pray. That by design you were created by God as a creature of prayer. Listen to me, whether you know it or not, we either pray or die. Because if you're a human being, you ought. That's not an advice. It's a statement of original intent. To say, if you want to know what was in the mind of God in the original beginning, I'm giving you expo. And it is that men ought always to pray and not to faint. So I'm trying to say to you that we either pray or die. Hallelujah. And so that you don't feel overwhelmed, I have also said to you that when you want to begin that journey, prioritize routine over duration. You may have 1 hour in view as your goal, but that's not where you start from. If you are coming from a rusty place, don't start by being too overambitious. It's overambitious if you don't have a prayer life at all to now say, you know what, hey, I want to be doing 1 hour 30 minutes every day. You will fail. You will fail. So set targets that are realistic, that are reasonable, that you actually can have faith in God for. Are you with me? Yes. Because even when we talk about faith and somebody says, I'm believing God. When somebody says, I'm believing God for some money, I'm believing God for some money depends on who is saying it. Some money is not an exact figure. It depends on who is. Hello? When some people say, I'm believing God for some money, I'm really believing God for some money, they have like 20,000 naira in mind. That's some money that they are believing God for. When somebody else says, I'm believing God for some money, he's talking about 2 million naira. That's some money. Some other person does not know what it means to be believing God for some money if 2 million naira is what is in view. Right? But what all three of them are using the same language. Say, I really have faith, I'm believing God for some money. But somebody has that kind of 200 million in view. That's actually where he needs to exercise faith to believe God for money. When I'm believing God for some money. Another person is actually looking for 5,000 naira. Are you with me? That is some money. So I'm saying that even in the exercise of faith, when we are saying that I am trusting God to help my prayer life, you need to express that faith in a way that is consistent with where you are at the time in the spirit. Because there's nobody that is not believing God to do better in prayers. But what better means for every one of us is not the same. It's not the same. When some people are saying, man, I really need an upgrade in my prayer life. They're trying to move things to like 4 hours daily. Some other persons are trying to even be able to do 30 minutes daily. And in both cases, when these goals happen, it's a beautiful thing in the spirit. The man who is coming from nowhere, if he can achieve 30 minutes consistency daily, he has made progress in the spirit. The man who is at 3 hours consistently, if he's able to make it to 4 hours, he has achieved progress in the spirit. Because line has to be upon line, precept has to be upon precept. Here a little, there a little. The things of God are progressive. So I'm saying, prioritize what? Routine over duration when you are beginning on your prayer enterprise. If you are trying to build a prayer life, begin with routine. So you know what the schedule of your life is. You can say, therefore, I'm going to make sure that, because of my schedule and how I go to work and all of that and everything else that I need to do, I'm going to make sure that every morning I can do 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Pure prayer. Dedicated to prayer. And believe me, it's not like there's not a lot you can do in 15 minutes. But it is a lot if you are coming from nowhere. Then you can now say, I know that I can steal another 10 minutes or 15 minutes in the night. I know I can. You find another 15 minutes. Or it could even be your break, depending on what your work schedule is. Like there's a 10 minutes, you need to beat your body into the mode of a habit. That's your first objective. Let the body get used to a routine of prayer. A routine of prayer that is consistent. That's the first thing you want to strike before you begin to talk about the duration. Because what you realize is, as the habit starts to come into place, the time will no longer be enough. Naturally, the 15 minutes will look so rickety that you will now consistently be overshooting it. Consistently overshooting it. Then you know that you are due for an upgrade. So you now say, okay, this thing, let's add 10 minutes because this 15 minutes is no longer working. And before you know it, you have arrived at that 1 hour that you started out in mind with. But if you started from nothing and you want to begin with the 1 hour, you may struggle for another 2 years and you have not yet been able to achieve it, and you have also not achieved any other thing because you still do not have a prayer life. It is better to have a prayer life that is 15 minutes daily than to not have a prayer life that is a haphazard 1 hour after 5 days, 1 hour after 20 days, 1 hour after 15 days, 1 hour after 7 days.